You walk past him every day. He drives a sedan that is beginning to rust around the wheel wells. His coat is a little worn at the elbows, and he orders the discount breakfast at the local diner, checking the receipt before he leaves a modest tip. If you glanced at him, your brain would categorize him instantly: struggling, old-fashioned, perhaps a little left behind by the modern world. You would assume his life is small, constrained by a lack of resources. But if you were to follow the paper trail of his life, past the rusted car, past the cheap suit, and into the ledgers of his bank accounts, you would discover a contradiction so jarring it feels like a glitch in the system. This man could buy your entire neighborhood in cash today and not even notice the dip in his balance. He is part of a silent tribe that lives among us, a group I call the ghost millionaires, and his existence forces us to ask a question that most of us are too afraid to answer. Why does the modern definition of success look so much like financial suicide? We are trained from birth to believe that wealth makes noise. We are told it roars in the engine of a supercar, it glitters on a wrist, and it towers in the form of a 6-bedroom mansion. We absorb the noise, and we assume we have taken in the meaning of money. But every so often you peel back the curtain of the economy and realize that the visible markers of wealth are often just the tombstones of financial freedom. The people who look the richest are often the ones drowning in the most debt, while the people who look like they have nothing possess the one thing money is actually supposed to buy: total, absolute liberty. This gap between rhetoric and reality exposes a mechanism that keeps the middle class trapped in a cycle of endless labor. To understand how we have been tricked, we have to investigate the concept of stealth wealth. It is not just a budgeting tip. It is a counterculture insurgency against an economy designed to strip you of your capital. The investigation begins where most fortunes are lost: the driveway. If you stand on a busy street corner and watch the luxury SUVs roll by, you are watching a parade of wealth destruction. The first move of the ghost millionaire is to reject the automobile as a status symbol. This is where the math becomes violent. When a normal person lands a high-paying job, the social script demands a reward. They sign a paper for a $60,000 vehicle. They tell themselves they worked hard, that they deserve it, that it is safe. But if you look at the architecture of that decision, it is a disaster. You are borrowing money at interest to buy an asset that depreciates. It is a double negative. You are paying the bank for the privilege of losing your own money. The ghost millionaire looks at that same transaction and sees a trap. They buy a 5-year-old car for cash. To the outside world, this looks like failure. It looks like they couldn't afford the upgrade, but in the silence of their investment accounts, something miraculous is happening. The $700 a month that their neighbor sends to a finance company is instead being diverted into a compounding asset. It doesn't seem like much in month one. It feels boring. But wealth is built in the boring moments. Over 10 years, that one decision, the decision to look broke on the road, creates a gap of hundreds of thousands of dollars between the two drivers. One looks rich but is handcuffed to their job to make payments. The other looks poor but is quietly buying their freedom. Yet as we go deeper into this lifestyle, we find that the pressure to conform is not just about cars, it is architectural. The American dream has been sold to us as a relentless climb up the property ladder. We are taught that a bigger house is not just a luxury but a moral imperative. When you get the promotion, you move to the zip code that matches your new title. You buy the foyer with the chandelier and the guest rooms that sit empty for 11 months of the year. But have you ever stopped to calculate the true cost of curb appeal? The ghost millionaire views a house differently. They view it as a utility, not a trophy. I want you to imagine a modest house, bought in the late 1950s or early 2000s, that has never been upgraded to match the owner's rising income. The neighbors might whisper. They might wonder why the family hasn't moved up the hill yet, but inside the walls are not closing in, because the mortgage was paid off a decade ago. While the rich neighbor is sweating over property taxes, heating bills for 4,000 square feet, and a mortgage that eats 40% of their take-home pay, the stealth wealth practitioner is sleeping soundly. They have eliminated their biggest monthly liability. This is the secret leverage of the invisible rich. They realize that a large house is often a prison, disguised as a palace. It anchors you to a high income. You must keep that high-stress job, because the house demands to be fed. By refusing to upgrade, by staying in the starter home forever. The ghost millionaire breaks the link between their employment and their survival. But this philosophy goes beyond the big purchases. It seeps into the granular details of daily life, and this is where it becomes a test of ego. Consider the ritual of lunch. In the corporate world, eating out is a signal of status. It says, "I am too important to cook. My time is too valuable." The $15 salad and the $6 latte are the uniforms of the modern professional. Now, picture the billionaire who packs a sandwich in a brown bag. When you see this, your instinct is to laugh. It seems absurdly miserly. Why would someone with millions in the bank worry about saving $10? But you are missing the point. It isn't about the $10. It is about the discipline of not needing the world to serve you. It is a rejection of the consumer treadmill. The ghost millionaire understands that small leaks sink great ships. That $15 a day invested over a 40-year career is not just loose change. It is a $1 million asset. When they eat their homemade lunch, they aren't tasting a dry sandwich. They are tasting the compound interest that will allow them to retire a decade before their colleagues. This brings us to the most difficult part of the investigation, the psychological toll. Stealth wealth is not hard because of the math. The math is fourth-grade arithmetic. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference. A child could understand it. No, stealth wealth is hard because it requires you to assassinate your own ego. We live in a signaling economy. We are social primates wired to seek approval from the tribe. When you wear a cheap suit, when you drive an old car, when you skip the expensive vacation, you trigger a primal fear of being ostracized. You risk being labeled as cheap, struggling, or eccentric. And for most people, that social pain is too great to bear. They would rather be broke and admired than rich and ignored. The ghost millionaire has hacked this system. They have detached their self-worth from their net worth's visibility. They have realized that the admiration of strangers is a depreciating asset. It feels good for a moment, but it pays no dividends. There is a moment in this journey that every practitioner faces. It is the moment of divergence. It usually happens in your 30s or 40s. You look around at your peer group. Your friends are upgrading their lives. They are leasing luxury cars, renovating kitchens, and posting photos of five-star resorts on Instagram. And you look at your own life. You are still driving the Honda. You are still in the small house. You are still wearing the clothes you bought 3 years ago. It feels like you are losing. It feels like you are falling behind. But if you can hold your nerve, if you can withstand that pressure, something unexpected begins to unfold. Time becomes your ally. The compound interest curve, which looks flat for so long, suddenly turns vertical. While your peers are running faster and faster just to stay in the same place, trapped by the lifestyle inflation they chose, you suddenly find that your passive income exceeds your expenses. You hit the crossover point. You walk into work not because you have to, but because you choose to. And that is a power dynamic that shifts the entire room. When you don't need the money, you become dangerous. You become honest. You become free. This leads into a deeper reflection on the nature of rich. What does that word actually mean? Society tells us rich is a noun. It is a collection of things. It is the boat, the plane, the diamond. But for the ghost millionaire, rich is a verb. It is the ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. The man in the rusted sedan understands that money is essentially stored energy. Every dollar you spend on a status symbol is energy you have burned for the sake of an audience. Every dollar you save and invest is energy you have stored for your own freedom. Let's talk about the mechanism of debt, because this is the weapon used to hunt the middle class. The invisible rich treat consumer debt like radioactive material. They do not touch it. They understand that when you finance a lifestyle, you are selling your future labor at a discount. You are promising to work next year and the year after to pay for the pleasure you are having today. The stealth wealth practitioner flips this equation. They pay for yesterday's pleasure with cash, and they let their capital pay for tomorrow's freedom. They are the bank. When they want something, they ask a simple question: is this purchase worth delaying my freedom? Usually the answer is no, but there is a trap here too. A risk that you become a miser, a dragon hoarding gold in a cave. And this is where the philosophy must be balanced. The goal is not to die with the biggest number on a screen. The goal is to maximize life. The ghost millionaires I have studied do spend money, but they spend it on experiences, on health, on learning, and on buying back their time. They don't spend it on impressing you. They will spend $5,000 on a trip to see the world, but they won't spend $5,000 on a handbag. One expands the soul, the other restricts the bank account. They prioritize value over volume. As we peel back the final layers of this lifestyle, we find the ultimate hack, the inner circle. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If your friends are obsessed with status, you will be too. It is almost impossible to practice stealth wealth if you are surrounded by people who judge you for it. The ghost millionaires tend to find each other. They form quiet networks. They don't talk about their new cars. They talk about ideas, about businesses, about the absurdity of the consumer rat race. They support each other's poverty. When one of them shows up in an old coat, they don't see failure. They see discipline. They know that the coat represents $1,000 that is currently earning 8% in the market. They share a secret language of valuation that the rest of the world finds baffling. So, why does this matter to you? Because we are heading into an economic era where the old rules are breaking. Job security is a myth. Inflation is a thief. The safety nets are fraying. The strategy of looking rich is becoming increasingly dangerous. It leaves you fragile. One missed paycheck, one medical emergency, one recession, and the house of cards collapses. The path of the ghost millionaire offers an alternative. It offers resilience. When you live on 40% of your income, you are unbreakable. You can lose your job and be fine for years. You can take risks. You can start businesses. You can speak your mind. But it requires a transaction. You have to trade your vanity for your liberty. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to let people think you are less than you are. Imagine fast-forwarding your life 20 years. Picture 2 versions of yourself. Version A looked the part. They drove the new cars, they wore the brands, they ate at the hot restaurants. But now, at age 60, they are tired. They are still working because they have to. They are stressed about the stock market because they need it to go up to survive. They are rich in things but poor in time. Version B looks much the same as you do now. Maybe a little older, a few more gray hairs. They drove the old car, they stayed in the small house, they packed the lunch. But at age 60, they are sitting on a park bench on a Tuesday morning, feeding the birds, with nowhere to be and no one to answer to. They have millions in the bank that nobody knows about. They own their time completely. Which version won the game? The tragedy is that most people will choose version A because the pain of looking average today is stronger than the desire to be free tomorrow. They will trade their lives for the applause of people who don't even care about them. But you can choose differently. It starts with a shift in vision. You need to start looking at your money not as a way to buy things, but as an employee. Every dollar is a worker. You can fire that worker by trading it for a coffee, or you can hire that worker to go out and recruit more dollars for the rest of eternity. The ghost millionaire has an army of millions of dollars working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week while they sleep. That is why they don't care about the car. Why would they care about a piece of metal when they are building an empire? This brings us to the closing argument of our investigation. Stealth wealth is not about deprivation. It is about clarity. It is about stripping away the noise of a consumer culture that is designed to keep you broke and confused. It is about realizing that the guy in the Ferrari might be rich, or he might be one bad month away from bankruptcy, but the guy in the old Ford, the one who tips quietly and reads his book in the corner, he might just own the bank. As you go about your week, look closely at the people around you. Look past the clothes and the cars. Ask yourself, who is actually free? And then look in the mirror. Are you building a life that looks good or a life that feels good? Are you buying status or are you buying freedom? The doors to the club of the invisible rich are open. There is no entrance fee. In fact, the only requirement is that you stop paying the entrance fee to every other club society tries to sell you. You have the power to disappear from the radar of expectation. You have the power to build a fortress of silence and security. It won't be flashy. It won't get you likes on social media. But one day, when the rest of the world is running on a treadmill that never stops, you will step off, walk out into the sunlight, and realize that while everyone else was trying to look like a millionaire, you actually became one. The choice is quiet, it is personal, and it is yours to make right now.